All right. So, Sharon, I'm really thrilled that you're here. I'm glad we've had an introduction and you've spoken to all the artists, or they've told you a little bit about themselves, and that I've placed that on a separate recording because I liked it. So now you've heard a bit of everybody. I'd like to hear about you. How did you get involved in this art world? One of the questions I ask a lot of the presenters is, where did they go to high school? And then, what was their career path from that point? How did they get to, this webinar tonight? So tell us about yourself.
All right. I took a sort of a crooked line. I went to high school in Muskegon, Michigan, right across the lake. I got a National Merit Scholarship and a few other scholarships. So I started to take art in school, but it was so bad. What was offered was so very bad, I decided to ignore it totally and not get tainted and wait until I found someone that I wanted to work with. But in the process, I had my mother was a very brilliant woman, and we did not see eye to eye. She expected me to be brilliant in her way and not my way. So I threw a dart, decided to figure out how far my scholarships would take me, and it landed in Wyoming. So I went to undergraduate school in Wyoming, and it turned out to be one of the best experiences of my life because I had been a city girl always, and went to a school in Wyoming where they had a fabulous casting department. My father, who was a football coach, said that was great, and even though I had a scholarship, I also had to get some real degrees, so I got a degree in education and a degree in history and a BFA in art, and then went back to civil life in Washington, D.C., and went to American and got an MFA in sculpture, and was married and then teaching at the dental school at Georgetown, teaching students how to carve teeth of all things, making a living, and teaching students at McLean, Virginia, other parts of the time, and taking another degree in photography. And then one day I burned out from teaching, moved to Dallas, taught at the University of Texas, and took a year's sabbatical from that and taught at a junior college, and found that the most exciting thing I'd done to date because I had all sorts of really exciting students from all over and all ages. Most of them were older than I was because I'd been sort of an early starter. I think I finished undergraduate school at 19 and had a blast doing that until I burned out from that because I put all my energy into everything I did. And a good friend who was a landscape architect, I said, what do you suppose I could do besides teach? And he said, well, why don't you put your money where your mouth is? And you're always talking about sculpture in the landscape, and sculpture here and sculpture there, and paintings here and paintings there, and all of this and all that. And he said, why don't you show me what you're talking about? And he had a huge firm of landscape architects and a lot of clients. So I started talking to them about art, and I invited all my friends who were artists down to prove that I was right. And so we had a big client who said, okay, let's take everybody around the country and see what you're talking about. So I loaded them on a plane at their expense, and we went to New York to see public art, and see galleries, and see private arts, and took them to every studio I knew, and that's how it started. I resigned from teaching and never looked back, and that was 31 years ago. So
fabulous. That makes you, what, 43?
Oh, yeah. Gee, Paul, I'm only 2 years older than you are. So I have never looked back. And there's a lot of things I said I'd never do, and you know what? I'm doing every one of them.
Like what? What do you want to talk about? Where do we want to take this conversation, Sharon?
Okay. Last time I talked about a lot of things that I think I'll ignore this time. I may touch on them. But I got a lot of ideas just from listening to what you all wanted. So I think I'm just going to change a little bit of direction and sort of put a couple of things together really quickly that I think will respond to some of the things that your group wants to hear, and then address some individual things.
Fabulous. Then we can maybe have some questions after that, or
yeah,
either way.
All the questions. So let me just hit on a couple of things. One, I started out by saying that the most important thing all of you are about is your art, because you are your art. And ego aside, what someone's going to be looking at is your art and your art presentation, and you are your art. So that's the most important thing. And one of you said to me, it's the woman I said, well, let's get back to that. Doreen maybe, that said she wanted people to see something in her art and relate to something. And my whole point is nobody's going to see anything like that unless you get the art out there for people to see. So first thing I want to talk to you about very briefly is how you get people to see your art. And that's one of the reasons you're all in Paul's class. And there are a whole lot of ways to do that, and the obvious ones are to get your work in galleries, and that takes a lot of work, and sometimes it takes a lot of friends. I think I've talked to Paul about this. Richard Serra, a long time ago, he was a friend and said to me, and we were talking, I invited him to talk to my students, and he said, you know, get your art out there every way you can, any way you can. And at that time I said, Richard, I just think that's awful. You shouldn't put your art everywhere. And we had a little discussion about it. Well, I think he's right now. You should get your art anywhere you can out for people to see it until you've gotten so well represented that you don't, that then you got to withdraw some of the places. But I also think that you got to sell. Some of you people need to make a living. So that's really important. And some of those ways are to approach different kinds of places. One of you said that you had talked to a big architecture firm and they were hooking you up with art consultants. Well, that's one way to do it. But let me tell you, interior designers, both commercial and private, are the ones who sell more art than anybody around of all kinds. Interior designers who work for architecture firms. The biggest architecture firms have an interior section within them. They sell art. They don't want to hire an art consultant because they want to keep that money to themselves. And I mean, I'm being really frank. I have worked for quite a few good ones, and I have a lot of friends that are in that business. You know, and I work with some of them, but I also work, developers call me directly. They don't, you know, they don't want to go through their interiors people because they want a real art consultant. But don't be too ashamed to go to an interior designer or an architect, and just team up, folks. You've got a lot of graphic designers there who really know their business. They've obviously made a living at it, and they know how to make a presentation. And there's something called the KISS theory, keep it simple, Sam. I got an invitation from the Dallas Museum a while ago. I will tell you, there are probably 25 to 30 artists that send me stuff every week unsolicited. And I get probably 50 to 60 gallery invitations a weekend, email and invitations. Most of them I throw away. But some things I get are really good, and they attract my attention. And I'm going to stick this up. I don't know how well you can see it. Let's see. Paul, tell me when you can see it.
Stick it in front of your nose, babe.
Okay.
Here we go.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. This is a very simple invitation from the Dallas Museum. It's two artists, okay?
Right.
Very simple. It was colorful, good art. It grabbed my eye. On the inside, it was just a typical Dallas invitation. But my point being, there could be a lot of information on the inside. It doesn't tell me to go to a website. It presents me with a good color print of the two pieces of work, and it got my attention. If two of you got together and sent out a mailing like this to every interior firm and every architecture firm with an interiors firm in Chicago, you could actually do 4 of you. I wouldn't do more than that because that's too much. And then on the inside, you can put your website and anything else you want to do. And I'd even put a price, put a size and a price on these pieces on the inside. But get these to people. Don't email them your website, because you know what? People email me their website all the time. I don't have time to go look at a website. Nobody has time to go look at a website if they're working. They're great for reference for later, but send a mailer, send a nicely printed mailer, and trade off with your friends. Those of you who are graphic designers, make a trade with some of the others. Some of the best things I ever did when I was an artist, and I was a working artist, and I have pieces in museums, were trades. I have some of the best art in the world that were trades from friends who are now very well known, but we survived on barter. So start that now, and start sending those mailers. Send them in nice envelopes that are handwritten and with your address in return. That way somebody's going to open it thinking it's an invitation or it's personal. If it's got a printed label on it, they're going to throw it in another stack and look later because they know it's going to be just another invitation that doesn't count. But if it's handwritten, I'll open it personally, or my secretary will open it and call it to my attention. So that's one simple hint.
Good idea.
You know, and take care with it, okay? Second thing that goes along with that, if you're going to go meet someone or if you're going to go into a gallery and introduce yourself, first thing, hand them something like that and be dressed for the dress as your owner or the interior designer or the architecture firm dresses. Don't dress the way you want to dress. Dress the way they dress, because that puts off a lot of people. And, you know, your opening shot is what you got. So I think I've mentioned that before. You don't need an expensive haircut. You just need a good haircut. You don't need an expensive shirt. You just need a shirt that fits. You don't need an expensive pair of jeans. You just need some that fit right and don't drag all over the ground. Just simple things like that. People pay attention to that. You know, they want to know that if they're taking you someplace or if you're in their stable and they're showing you off, that you're really presentable. That's important. And it sounds so shallow, but it's just really true. Next thing, I listened to quite a few of you. Lynn, I think you're the one who's doing glass. And there was someone else, oh, wait a minute, I got to see who it was, that was talking about their photographs, the big ones, that could do 5-foot ones and thought they could do 16-foot ones, and several others of you. Public art. You should all be working on public art projects. Get yourself in there. But very specifically, those people who are talking about the photographs and the glass, I'm working now on Love Field, Dallas Love Field. I'm one of the jury members.
I don't know that everybody knows what Love Field is, Sharon.
Dallas Love Field is an in-city airport that used to be the only airport for Dallas, but Southwest Airlines flies in and out of it, flies to Midway. It's a cheaper airline. Americans sometimes, I guess they're going to start flying in and out of it. A lot of the smaller airlines fly in and out of it. They're doing a complete renovation. They have a $3 million, they had a $3 million public art budget. 25% of it went to Dallas artists. The rest to national artists. It was a competition. I think I'm the only professional consultant on the jury. There are some others. There's a collector who's got great taste. There's some people with really bad taste, so on and so forth. But there's all sorts of things that are being used, and there are some photographers who aren't very good who are taking their art. I think, you know, probably all of you have heard of Hans Mayer of Munich, who takes photographs, anything else, and makes them into big glass pieces or mosaic pieces or anything else. There are a lot of people in the United States who do it for half the price. But the point is, you can take your work and have it translated into something 10 times, 15 times, 20 times bigger that is appropriate for public art, as long as it can be sized up right and as long as it looks good and it's appropriate for public art. Those 5-foot photographs and 16-foot photographs that you want to get out, there's not a whole lot of places for them. But when you look at them in terms of public art or in another material, such as a mosaic or as a piece of glass, bingo, you know, that becomes public art. The same way with some of the paintings. Those paintings don't have to just stay paintings. You know, if you're doing a painting that can be appropriate and can be sized up, that's good for public art. And you don't have to do the mosaics. There are people who do that. That's how they make their living. You get the designer's fee, you get the artist's fee, you get the supervision fee. There is a site called PAN, Public Art Network. It's also affiliated with American for the Arts. You should all be registered. That's the big one. and they have a conference every year that, it wouldn't hurt to go once, because those are job opportunities. It has job opportunities for everybody on there. In addition to that, you should all be registered for your public art, local, state, county, and you should subscribe to the Visual Art Network, the Art Lies. There's a magazine called Art Lies. They have lots of competitions in there. And you start with baby stuff. And all you need to do is a background in it. You need to get in one, and then you've got a background of public art. There's money out there to be had. I mean, an artist here that is a very sore point with me, and I brought it up to the committee the other day, and I think I made some enemies, and I don't care, who has never gotten more than a $50,000 commission in her life, just got a $500,000 commission, which is a little bit skewed, but, anything's possible. So you need to team up. There's someone who said, I believe it's Ken from Arizona maybe, who did poetry and and sculpture and multidimensional things. One of the artists that we're using who does poetry, has teamed up with another artist who does glass, and they're doing poetry and some photography on glass for one of the windows for the airport. Team up, figure out some teams. Make teams of 2 and 3 and 4 of you to join, and that'll give you a way better chance at anything. And just apply for things like mad. It doesn't cost you one single thing except some brain power and some time. So go after those public art projects. They're money. It's a lot of money. Larry Kirkland, some of you know, you can Google him. He does projects all over the United States. He is competing for money, and he has you get a $3,000 stipend if you're one of the finalists. In this case, he spent $5,000 on a model because he really wants this job. It's high-profile stuff. So go after those public art projects. I have some other ideas, but I don't know what our time is like, so let's open it to some questions. I think we might be running short on time. Right, Paul?
Yeah, but Gigi's here, and I think we can run a little longer, and I think she'll indulge us. And, she's the next presenter. So somebody unmute themselves and ask Sharon a question.
I have a question. Just thinking that some of those...
Can you identify yourself because now that I'm
a little
familiar with you?
This is Ken Bowe.
Okay, Ken.
And the question is, since you brought up contests, which some of these public art things are, what do you think about other contests? Of course, there's a lot of contests, public and private galleries around the country. A lot of them charge fees. And a lot of them charge fees. Some of them don't seem as on the up and up as others,
Right, and you know what? Then you watch your pocketbook. I just sent one to your network there, and I don't know anything about it, so research them. When they come across my desk, I try to send them to artists, but do research them. There's a print fair in Yugoslavia every year. It's free. Do it. Just get it on your resume. It looks good. But the ones that cost too much, don't do it unless there is something that is very rewarding at the end, unless you've got a really good shot at it. But in your case in Arizona, boy, the public art functions really well there, and you have got as good a shot as anybody else at it, because that's how everybody starts. Either small projects there, and you can team up with somebody else from Arizona, and then team up with some of the people there. As long as you've got one local person on it, you should be good for quite a few things there. That Arizona has got a really good public art program, and you're in a good place there. For the juried shows for galleries, try for them, because sometimes the reward is either a show or a group show. There is a gallery here, Craighead Green, that has an annual exhibition of new artists, and it's a group show, and they probably have 30 or 40 artists in it. But they look at new work, but they don't want to see package of JPEGs or a website. You know, they don't have time to do it, so send them one of these invitations. Okay? Something like
cool.
that.
Hey, all right, I'm sorry. I was going to go to the next question. Let's do that. Maze, you want to unmute yourself and ask a question? Your question?
Sure, Sharon. What is the process of connecting art to the client?
To a client?
Yeah. So when a client asks you, Sharon, can you connect me with some art? I need to outfit my brand new building. What is your process?
Okay, if there's no in-between person, you know, if there's no interiors person to work with, if they come directly to you, that's a tough one. First of all, it's not really tough, but let's take it if they ask me, okay? If they're coming to me and I'm the one who's going to coordinate it, first thing I do is go in, take a look at the building, ask them what their budget is. That's number one. Two, I want to know what they have in mind, and by that I don't mean what artist, but I mean what's their style feeling. Do they have a preference? If not, I tell them what I think they need, and I'm very specific about that. If it's a really stark building or a box building or something, it's got to have something that stands out. So I want something that really catches your eye, that can knock your socks off when you come in the building. What about the outside? You know, it's hard to describe, but if it's a building that has no personality, you need to give it personality fast. So it probably needs some dimensional if it can handle it. It needs light. If it's too bland inside, it needs obviously color if it's too bland. It'd take me a long time to describe exactly how I go about outfitting something like that. A lot of it's intuitive. But if you've got an interiors person who's working on there and they don't know much about art, at least get a hold of them and find out what materials they're using, what it's going to look like when it's finished as far as furniture, and that will give you clues. What are the people who occupies it? Are they techs? Are they young people? If they're young people, obviously you can do a whole different kind of thing than you can if they're in their 50s, or if they're bankers, or if they're lawyers. You know, then you've got to be a little conservative just because of the clientele. You've got to know what happens in the building. That's really important. What kind of people they attract, what kind of business they attract. What kind of traffic is there, if it's a quiet space, or if it's a space that, you know, breeze along.
I apologize. I kind of asked the question wrong. I mean, what is your, Sharon's, particular process of once you have a project? How do you go about finding the art? Oh,
well, that's easy. I take a look at the project, figure out what it is, what's the budget, what the space needs, and then what kind of, how far I can push the client in terms of art, and look at artists within the range of that budget and project, and how far I can push it. I'm working on a city park that has 3 public sculptures in it now, with 3 different budgets for the spaces. It's going to be turned over to the city of Dallas when we finish it. I knew that if I didn't use one regional artist, I'd probably be in trouble. And we had one good regional artist who could fit one space. We had 2 national budgets, so I used 2 national artists on the other budget. I invited about 25 sculptors to submit resumes and showed their work to the client. And I could have lived with any of the sculptors. That was the important thing. I didn't show them anything I couldn't have lived with on the property. And then I let them narrow it down from there. And they were very nervous about it because they're turning it, even though they're turning it over to the city, they didn't want anybody to say it was bad taste, so they decided to have an art committee in this case. And I narrowed it down to show the art committee to what I really wanted. And then the art committee approved my, narrowing it down, which is, to say that, I've been in the business so long that I pretty much get my way, but it's very manipulative, I have to tell you. Ask Paul.
I think I don't know, you're seductive, and it may be just a question of degree between manipulation and seduction, but you obviously know what you're talking about, and people are inspired by that. I think that's significant. Hey, Lynn Weitzer, why don't you ask your question aloud? Unmute yourself and ask Sharon what you asked the group.
Sure. I'm really interested in that idea of the mailer to the architects and interior designers. I was really clear about having nice images and contact information, but what should the text be, or should there be a body of text?
Okay, in your case, I think you're probably a little bit different. There may be one or two other people approaching you, but you specifically have a background. You've got a very professional gallery. I would ask you, first of all, does your gallery do anything for you? Do they, in other words, do they introduce you to any other galleries?
No.
No.
They're mostly interested in museums and press.
Okay.
But nothing with other galleries.
Is there anyone in that gallery that, first of all, let me tell you my opinion, and I'll use a very well-known gallery because I work with them a lot as an example. Marlborough Gallery did not used to do anything for their artists except take 50% most of the time, ask the artist to pay for their invitation, and do a lot of other things like that. That was at one point. Now they're getting a lot better because they realize the artists they have a choice. So now they have to push their artists. They go see the museums. They put their artists in museums. They loan their artists to other galleries, but they give the galleries a much bigger chunk of the work, and they get their artists out there. I got one of their artists at a gallery show in South Africa. They gave me a percentage of it. They gave the gallery in South Africa a good percentage. They split the cost of a catalog, that type of thing. That's a good gallery. Then they can have an exclusive on you. If they don't do that kind of thing, they don't have an exclusive. They don't deserve one. So if I were you, I'd shop another gallery. I'd very quietly, one at a time, go shop another gallery because you can do it. You've already got good representation. Just be careful about it and shop around for somebody who can do that for you. And also start shopping other places. Right now, the only places that are really selling are London. Paris is coming back alive. Berlin is great, but it doesn't sell. That's the thing. There are more artists and more art galleries in Berlin that the artists are all on the dole, and the art galleries are supported by money I don't know where from other places. They're not making money. I spend a lot of time there. Dusseldorf, there's some galleries making money, and there's some artists making money. But they get their money from the government. That's mostly where it comes from. London is your best bet right now. Paris is your best bet. Italy, Milan, they're selling work because of the foundations. Rome, they're so filled with their history they can't get past it. Switzerland,
Sharon,
yeah.
Let's go back to her question. I mean, that's a fine tack. But if she does, if she's doing that, what about the more immediate and pragmatic approach of what the text should be if she wants to send this out to,
She should put down a brief bio. Exhibitions, I assume she's had some shows at Spannerman. Private collections, public collections, private collections. And then available for more information by contact. That's it. Indicate that you are interested in gallery representation. I would focus on Chicago specifically, Seattle, LA, San Francisco. Then go to London and Paris. Don't go in between. There's no sense.
just a follow-up question, if I may.
Sure.
I'm a little concerned about alienating the current gallery. Any recommendations for being subtle and savvy?
Right. You would do this discreetly. You're not going to, for you, don't make a mass mailing. You would do it discreetly, and quite frankly, with a personal letter, and you do it one or two to each city at a time quietly. Then if nothing comes back from that, then you approach someone else. And in your case, I'd actually probably put in a self-addressed stamped envelope for any return mail, only because then you'll get then if you get it back, you know that nothing's happening. And that's the only reason. Otherwise, for the rest of you, I'd say don't do that. It's a wasted expense. They can trash it or they'll keep it on their desk. Like this one I've kept on my desk now since March, just because I like the work a lot, and I'm going to get in touch with the artist. It's just that I don't have time right now. But for you, Lynn, you need to be much more discreet, and I agree that's, much better. But let me tell you, when a gallery has a selling artist, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to ditch you.
Okay.
But you're going to have to take your own career in your hands, and you're doing the right thing in Paul's group, because if the gallery is not doing anything for you, I know Spannerman's interested in selling things, and that's just about where they're at. I get gobs and gobs of stuff from them every month. But
cool. Let's move on to Katina.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Sharon. Katina, I've unmuted you, and go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Well, I'm in a sort of parallel situation, which is, and I'm so grateful to hear about the question of what should a gallery be doing for me. So I've had a lot of gallery representation, and what happened in the recession is that I lost mobility in a way. Like I lost interest out of Los Angeles. I was really interested that you did not name Los Angeles as one of the places where Lynn should look. And I'm kind of curious about that, because I think it feels really dead in LA right now, and I would be interested in hearing what you think about that. And then the second part of this is, I'm not really known outside of the Bay Area, even though I'm represented in Boston, and I get some reviews like I have in, I guess, Art News last month, June. So saying approach these people is a very interesting approach. Obviously, I'm not with the New York Gallery, which makes it harder for me. So it's, I guess, the same question at a different level.
Okay, here's the thing. Number one, New York is not the magic word. I was with the New York Gallery when I was like 27 or 28, and and it was a big gallery, and I thought, wow, this is it. I can make it. I still couldn't support 3 kids. That's why I ended up doing what I did.
Right.
It's just not all that magic. Right now, there's another thing called Volta. It's part of
What's it called?
Volta, V-O-L-T-A. It's part of Basel.
Okay.
Just Google it. But the deal is with the Volta, they show young galleries and they ask for artists to do projects. And the hottest thing going is young, unusual galleries.
Right. Okay.
They're the best thing. They're the most interesting thing. And they get in they get in like AB Art Basel Miami Beach. They have Scope and Pulse and all these side shows are way better than the Big Daddy show. They're way more interesting, these art fairs. So if you find young galleries that go to art fairs, that they will give you national exposure much faster than all these venerable galleries that don't go to the art fairs, because you're going to reach a much bigger audience. Look, my husband has a place in Santa Monica. He lives there. I live here, so I go out there periodically.
Right.
LA is a confused place. They have 4 art fairs a year, and they're all competing against each other because the galleries just all don't gang up and get together. Now, the people who run the Armory show are about to have something called Art Platform LA, and that's in September. So we'll see how that does, They supposedly...
It won't do very well.
Yeah. Huh?
That won't do very well. That's the merchandise mart people, and their heads are thoroughly wedged in the wrong place.
You're right. Yeah, I know. I won't name names, but you're absolutely right.
You mean Chris Kennedy? Yes.
Okay. But you're absolutely right. You know, the thing, and that's the trouble with LA, and the only people in LA who buy are the Hollywood people making a lot of money and the sports stars. You know, those are the people with excess money in Hollywood. Nobody else buys. You know, the gallery's just a tough situation there. And that's why you have the big name galleries going there and opening a space, because they're going after the big name people. But LA just doesn't, you know, they don't have a art buying public. So keep your name in San Francisco and head out to the other places. And in your case, by the way, when you send out stuff, print that art news clip in there, or include your art news clip inside your thing. That's good press.
Well, and here's another question. You mentioned the fairs, so certainly my work's been out at Pulse and Red Dot and Art Miami. Do I want to list those too?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah. Those are way better. And, you know, all of you, when you're looking for little galleries, or you know what, next time you get a chance, gang up together, get all of Paul's class together and do a little co-op and see if you can't get a gallery. You know, if you can form your own gallery somehow, and it doesn't have to have a permanent space. It can be, you know, like they used to do on the beach down in...
They still do this, Sharon. There's still plenty of galleries at art fairs that exist only for the 5 days of the art fair. And it has a name, and it has, you know, a phone number, and it doesn't have any physical reality.
And that's all they need to do. You know, you
I actually have one for Miami next year if you want it, so...
Then do it. You know, you will have more, you know, you know, you have to take that big giant step, but you've got a great leader. Paul knows the ropes. He had the best gallery in Chicago, which is why I ever went to Chicago, because I used to buy a lot for him. And, you know, he, you know, by the way, June Kaneka was one of the ones that came down to present. So,
cool.
Just do something like that. Just take this big, brave step and do your, you know, each of you take 2 of your very best pieces and have 3 or 4 in the trunk of your car, and you can't all afford to go down there, but pick 5 of you that represent you best, all of you, and go do it. You know, those.
You get the notion here with talking to Sharon. You know, I mean, it's about thinking big, and if you ask yourself, "Am I thinking too big?" the answer is probably think bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Truly, you know, some people have a word for it. What is it? I think it's moxie or something like that. You know what? That's what it takes, because it's so hard to sell yourself. You know, it really is, because it's you guys have your ego on the line every time you go through a door trying to sell something. It's hard. You know, rejection is tough. So you got to just gear up, and numbers help. So, you know, and it's expensive, and I know how hard it is to make a living right now. So think wise and use wise. And even if it's nothing more than getting exposed to 50,000 people, at least you're exposed to 50,000 people. And you've got enough graphic artists among you to trade off art and have them prepare some really stellar stuff for something like ABMB. And Frieze is coming to New York in 2012. And that's one of the hottest art fairs there is, because it's very contemporary and very great.
All true.
What's
that question?
Pardon?
Where's Frieze going in 2012?
They're going to be on an island in New York at the 3rd week in April.
Okay.
Yeah, and Frieze is, in terms of art and good art and not such a jungle, is way better than ABMB.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have a question?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's Annette from I Want.
Cool, Annette, please.
Because I'm in the medical industry, I have had several physicians ask me to curate artwork for their medical practices, which I've done. and I am leaning toward trying to figure out how to market to hospitals, physicians, professional practices, law offices to create art for their businesses. Where is a good place to start with that?
Hospital, hospital art is so important.
How do you get into large facilities to sell to at a corporate level?
First of all, hospitals are a great start. Physicians' offices, God knows they need decent art because they all have crap.
I know.
If you, again, get with the group that you're with right now, use the graphic artists, get up some little, but little brochure like this. Pictures sell everything. Put inside something brief and to the point. Give them enough information that they can reach you. If they're interested, they'll get back to you. You can even put a website if you want to, but don't give them too much information. Just give them enough. If it's too much information and the print's too small, they're not going to read it. The graphics have got to be good. The picture's got to be good. It's got to be intriguing enough to open that up and read it. It's got to be pretty. Pretty things work.
Right.
You're seducing somebody. You're not giving them all the information about everything you do. It's a seduction so that they pick up the phone and call Annette and go, "This is gorgeous. Tell me more."
Exactly.
Someone else like to ask a question?
This is Alyssa. This may not be appropriate to answer here in terms of time, but there were a lot of fairs that you rattled off that I couldn't hear. I'll probably just start an email among everybody because there were some that I got that I know of that are interesting, and other ones, Sharon, that you mentioned that I think would be interesting to pull together for the whole group.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of them, and actually I have some notes here about you specifically because because you've got some background, international background.
While you're looking at that, Sharon, I want to say something to Alyssa, and that is that there's a Facebook page, and I'm looking, and I don't see that you're a member. If you're on Facebook, let me see if I can make you a member, because there's a Klein-Artist-Works gang, and that enables people who are you not on Facebook?
Oh, I'm on Facebook, but I'm not very. I will admit that I'm in and out of it pretty irregularly. But I did see that. I actually just saw that tonight that you had started that group.
All right, so I just typed in your name, and you didn't. I don't know that you and I are Facebook friends, so we need to do that because that would enable me to get you involved in it, or you can send me an email so that you can do it, because that enables some of the people to opt out who are in the group, and that way we don't have emails going to everybody, so that we can. I think this is information that everyone would want, so we can do it through that Facebook page.
Right.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay. And I'll be glad to list these different art fairs and where they are and when they are and like that.
Yeah, and if just one person subscribes to Art Lies and one person subscribes to another, then you can pool your information. Not everybody has to subscribe to the same thing. And the same with checking on the Public Art Network and the Visual Art Network and all of these. I come up for air periodically, and I'll put these things on. I'll forward them to Paul or put them on because I don't pay a whole lot of attention to my Facebook that often. As a business person, I'm more into LinkedIn, but I do. I get emails from quite a few artists. April Gornick is one of the best people. She's always sending things that I need to know, and I do try to pass those on. She's the person I know best that absolutely does Facebook all the time, and I'm not one of those. So I will try to pass those on, and having that website is a great thing because I know I'm reaching just you guys and the people who are really interested. So, but
I just asked April to be my friend. We have 143 friends in common, and we're not friends.
I know, isn't that bizarre?
Oh, and they won't do it. Sorry, this user has too many friends already.
Oh, you should listen. I have to send you a picture of her cats. She's got two those spotted great big cats, whatever they are, beautiful.
Leopard?
Bengals that Eric.
Oh, wow.
That Eric gave her that are amazing. Anyway, y'all split up the work. You know, get together on the website, which is a great way to do it instead of taking the time over one of these to do it. And literally, you know, be a community. Assign 2 people to Art Lives and 2 people to this and 2 people to that, and you know, you can make mincemeat out of the work and put it on the website.
Cool. Somebody else want to ask a question? I think we're done.
All right.
Sharon, that's been a ton of fabulous and wonderful information, and, you know, I think you got everybody fired up some more, and we've got, you know, pragmatic thing. Can you see the chat thing there where people are writing thank you notes to you?
Oh, no, I don't see that yet.
All right. Well, if you get rid of, if you hit escape on the large screen, it should give you the small screen, and you can see a lot of people sending love in your general direction.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Hey, you guys.
As if you needed more. So fabulous.
You know, if I think of things, I'll post it on there, and you've got a great leader, so, you know, it's, you know, stick your foot out and jump into that big pond, because it's not so big once you get in it.
So true. Sharon, we love you. Thank you so much.
You take care.
We'll talk soon. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.